Welcome back to the fourth and final part of my Speed Puzzle World Series recaps. I've covered all the challenges, I've covered everything that happened in Germany to the best of my ability at this point. Now it's time to kind of look to see what's coming up next. We are an unknown amount of time away from the 2027 World Series. We know it will take place. We don't know anything else beyond that. So this is really a guessing video based on absolutely no information. And yeah, that's it. So let me know in comments below what you think we may see or not see, or changes or whatever might happen in the 2027 World Series. Let me know in the comments below. We don't know if we're going to find out anything within the next few weeks or months, however long this may take. But I'm sure information will come as soon as it can. Coming up soon on this channel to finish out this recap series. This is the last video where it's just me. There's two more videos coming out, one including a talk with the live stream co-hosts, Jim and Fruji. So make sure you watch that. That was a very fun chat and seeing all the stuff from their perspective. And then this will close by... The series will close by hearing one more time from the Speed Puzzle World Series founders and organizers, Lou and Mel. They will join me one more time on here. We'll ask some questions about what happened this year, things that they think went well, maybe things that could have gone better. We'll definitely be talking about the table controversy that came up, but overall we'll see what we can get out of them for the 2027 World Series. That episode has not been recorded as of yet, but it will be happening within the next day or so. So make sure if you want to ask them a question, or you want me, obviously I will ask a question for you, head over to my Instagram stories at @CanadamPuzzle and let me know in what questions I should be asking them, whether it's about the 2026 World Series or what's coming up at the 2027 World Series. Other than where it is and when it's, I'm obviously going to ask where it's going to be and when it's going to be. Don't worry about that. What else do you want to know from them? And for the last time in this series, I just want to include the disclaimer that has been included in the first three parts. So if you've seen it, you can just skip over it. But I think it is important just to reemphasize this, especially for some of the topics I'll talk about in this particular video. There are a few things I do want to get out of the way before I go into the recap aspect. This bit of the recording will be copied and put into the start of all the videos within this series. So if you've seen it before, just skip over to it or watch it again. It's up to you, really. So first of all, as I mentioned in the preview videos for the World Series, I am in no way associated with the organization of the Speed Puzzle World Series. I'm not here to promote it or discourage it or anything else with the World Series. If I make suggestions like you should try to attend if there is a future World Series, that's what I honestly believe. So there are no sponsorships or deals on this channel right now, and if there are any in the future, that will be made very clear. Second, and most importantly, how I approach this recap will be different than my recap series for the 2025 World Championships. I spoke to a lot of people in Munich who watched that series. That's where I think a lot of people started following this channel. That was a big bump after the World Championships for me. It will still be along the same line. I still talk the same. I'll still have the same mannerisms, stuff like that. But running a massive international event for the first time, which is what the Speed Puzzle World Series was, is very different to running a event in the same spot with pretty much everything the same for the fifth time. So that has to be taken into account when I go through these videos. And depending on the particular issue, leniency will probably be given in this case. Not in every circumstance, of course, but you'll see as this series progresses. Third, this recap series is not about my personal experience, but the community's experience. In some cases, I will bring up things that I did experience if it goes in with the overall story that I'm trying to tell within these recaps. If there's anything I include in these videos that I did not personally experience, I will have confirmed it with multiple other people before I include it in here. If I only hear something from one person, it's unlikely I'm going to include it in this video. Anecdotal evidence is great, but I do need to hear it from multiple people, unless it's something very funny that happened to you, or you have some sort of video of it. Great. Please send that to me separately and I can include it in future videos. There's no possible way for me to talk about everything that happened because I can't be everywhere at once, and I was competing as well. I'm focused on what I was doing at the World Series. Now I've spoken to hundreds of people, I would think, that were at this event, which I'll talk about as we go through. But again, if you have anything, you can send it to me privately through my Instagram account. And finally, there may be points in this recap series that you may not agree with, and that's okay. Each of the 334 competitors, the organizers, the workers, the volunteers, the spectators, the commentators, and anyone else who is part of this event will have a slightly different experience from one person to the next. Different perspectives matter in this case. In my personal opinion, the organizers, Mel Townsend and Lou Jacket, will be open to hearing from participants going forward. If you have issues with anything that happened, that's going to be taken into consideration. I'm confident that those concerns will be addressed in future World Series competitions. There will be other things that I mentioned in here that, again, some people may not agree with my point of view on it. But it's the internet, so that's gonna happen. So on that note, let's get back to recapping the first ever Speed Puzzle World Series. Speaking of the organizers, they did send out feedback forms for this World Series. So we're going to start off by going through that, and that's going to lead into some of what I think or hope we see at the 2027 World Series. And I'll also be answering some questions that I didn't get to in the first three parts from people that submitted questions to me. So let's look at the feedback forms and see how this may or may not impact the next World Series. So as we go through this, there is a fair number of questions. We start off with some of the basic questions, things like, did you enjoy it? How was the registration process? Which feels like years ago at this point. Fairly simple starting off questions. I don't really see how... I know overwhelmingly people are going to say they enjoyed it. Yes, there might be a few people that didn't. Depending on how many people say they really enjoyed it, outliers, at least in my background, when I'm doing marketing surveys or research studies or stuff in the past, you're always gonna have some people that are upset. It's just what it is. They're just outliers, unless they have a very, very good reason. How was the registration process? Well, you registered and you got there, so I can't imagine how bad it could have possibly been. But again, fairly simple starting off questions. Event communication will be an interesting one, depending on how people are going to answer this, and it depends on how far back people are going to go when they answered this part of the feedback survey. Communication at the beginning was very cryptic, for a variety of reasons, but as more information came out, things were pretty clear in my opinion. How the information came out at the very beginning, it did prevent some people from going to the World Series. I know that for sure. But now that mystery aspect is over. It's not going to happen again where we need to try to figure out who the organizer is or what this World Series is. That's all done. So that's not going to repeat itself next time. So if that was the reasoning someone gave them a low score on event communication, that's irrelevant at this point. We know all that. Yeah, it's fine. Venue and location, again, another question that is tough to answer, and it depends on what your focus is. Does this also include the city of Munich? I don't know. How much does where you booked your hotel factor into it, which is your fault if you booked a hotel really far away. There was plenty of hotels within the area. when it comes to the venue itself, where you were seated in the room is going to impact your feedback. I already know the organizers are very much aware of the lighting and the tables and everything that went into that. Um, it would be interesting to see to it would be interesting if individual feedback results will be cross-referenced with a participant's seating in the room where their location was and what the results were. Uh, I don't know how anonymous the uh, results are. There's no way to know that. So if it's completely anonymous and you can't do that, if there's some indicating factors, maybe. Um, and again, things like schedule and timing, very subjective to what you preferred. Organization, same thing. Those are kind of all grouped together. When it comes to atmosphere and community vibe, again, this will depend on how individuals approached the competition and the atmosphere around it. The inclusion of the cards. Oh, there's one done. The inclusion of the cards will help this score go up if people participated in the cards. Uh, if people were social during the uh, breaks in between, the short breaks in between, yeah, if you participate, people are going to enjoy the overall atmosphere and community vibe a little bit more if they participated in going out in the evenings, whether it was after the Friday and going to some hotels to do some puzzling with other puzzlers. That's going to change things. If they went out and participated in the puzzle chicken after the competition was done, yes, that will also play a factor. There's so many things to take into consideration, some things that are beyond the control of the event itself. I had to fix the cards had to be fixed because I didn't even know that happened. That was probably the last video I filmed just before this. Anyways, spectator experience, very tough for any competitor to really give feedback on this, as this was not like other competitions where you watch some rounds and participate in others. You were in every single round, so we were never really spectators. I guess the exception would be if you were someone who finished the puzzles relatively fast and then went upstairs to spectate. Um, but for the vast majority of people, that's not what happened. They went outside to get fresh air and mentally prepare for the next round. The only way to know the spectator experience on location would be if you spoke to somebody that was there. I didn't do that. Yeah, I didn't do that. So I don't even know what I put down for that one. I just try to pretend like what it would have been like. I don't even know. Live stream, again, this will be up to each individual person, what they were expecting from the live stream, what they were hoping to see, what they didn't see. Some people thought they should have done the live stream more. A lot of factors go into that. We'll see if that changes in 2027. Who knows? The prize pool and awards, I didn't really notice what they were, as it was not of a concern to me because I'm not going for one of those top 10 prizes. What I did enjoy though was the lack of raffles. Uh, so many competition. I always find raffles bring everything to a halt, where someone stands and pulls a name out of the box and they read it, and we all have to look around and pretend that, oh yay, we're super happy for them. We're not. Just we want to get to the puzzles. Could not care less about the raffles. You can have raffles, just do it separately and then update a sheet. People can look at it and collect their prize if they want. If they want, whatever. Um, Sorry, I don't like raffles. In 2027, I think we should just get rid of the raffles. Again, do it privately, sort it out later. Because raffles should still happen. People should still get prizes, just not during the competition when people are sitting at the table going, I just want to do the puzzle. That's it. All right, and then we get to the important questions on this survey. As I mentioned frequently in the preview videos for the World Series, I believe that the organizers are very particular about their word choices in most cases, and this is no different. The way each of these is structured, I think, again, this is just me talking, they're they're trying to really emphasize something with these questions, which I'm okay with. The next few questions include the key phrase, world's fastest puzzler. Very important. So the first question was this competition format fair for the world's fastest puzzler? Not fair for every competitor, fair for the world's fastest puzzlers. Yes, as fair as it could be for the world's fastest puzzlers. At this competition, the 334 people that were there are all speed puzzlers. That is very much true. It is not the 334 fastest puzzlers in the world. That's not what it is. I am not one of the world's fastest speed puzzlers, and I finished in the top 100 at the World Series. If everyone in the world showed up to this event, I'm definitely not in the top 100. So it's just a good reminder that this event primarily, again, is to find the world's fastest puzzler. So how was the competition designed to make sure that we could get that specific result? So was it fair to find the world's fastest puzzlers? Yes. The next question was, to find the world's fastest puzzler, was the challenge limit too long, too short, or just right? A nice little Goldilocks question here, and the answer, just like the book, is just right. Now, the time limit is somewhat irrelevant. Kind of. Yes, you could technically have it 15 minutes shorter because that does not impact the world's fastest puzzlers at all. They were finishing well before the time limit, well before 15 minutes before the time limit. So that's not really going to make much of a difference. The impact here would be on who's slower, obviously. The way that I look at this when it comes to the world's fastest puzzlers is the impact between challenges when it comes to rest. If we were starting a challenge every 2 hours, and I liked that because it kept the intensity up all day. You weren't leaving for hours and then coming back and doing another round. It was, this one's done, okay, into the next one. But you still need some bit of a break just to mentally decompress and prepare yourself for whatever the next challenge is going to be. So whatever allows that pace to continue pretty much exactly how it did this year, stick with that. If it's 15 minutes shorter, does that mean there's going to be 15 minutes less between the rounds? If not, then you really don't need to make it 15 minutes shorter, because that's not benefiting the fastest puzzlers, just impacting those who might be taking a bit longer. 15 minutes longer will benefit the few people who were not able to complete the puzzle in 75 minutes. So they would get 90 minutes instead. But how does that impact how long the changeover is between the rounds? Because now, instead of 45 minutes to get that room redone and count all the pieces, get rid of everything that was there for challenge 1 and get ready for challenge 2, challenge 3, challenge 4, it's going to impact that. So is it going to be, instead of 2 hours between rounds, is it now 2.5 hours between rounds? And that's going to get rid of that intensity that we were missing. I think 75 minutes per puzzle was just fine. That is very much the time you see in final competitions for nationals, for worlds. And this is for the world's fastest puzzlers. It's not a overall social type of event. It is a social event. It is not there for, we're there for speed. That's the main priority for this. So if you are someone who's finishing a puzzle in 75 minutes, that's fantastic. If you're someone who finishes a puzzle in 90 minutes, that's also very, very good. But again, not the focus of this competition in particular. So many other competitions, yes, this specific competition is for the world's fastest puzzlers. That's who has the priority. Again, I am not one of them. I understand that it's for certain people. We then move on to questions that were about the first 3 rounds, which is interesting for a couple reasons. But first, we'll just look at it. And the questions asked if we felt the skill that was being targeted, so gradient, repetition, and detailed, if that skill included more than 50% of the puzzle, 25 to 50% of the puzzle, or under 25% of the puzzle. I mentioned in part 3 for this series that I chose the phrase 50% because it was referring to this question. For 2027, if a particular skill is being tested, whether it's the 3 we had this time, the skill should always be above 50%. The detailed puzzle, yes, that's 100% details all the way through. There could be more, actually. So there could be more. Some of the details are fairly big, so you're not getting as much detail, but the whole puzzle is details. That's fine. That's your over 50%. Easy. When it came to the repetition round, the building there, we're at 50% would be generous. We're definitely under 50% when it comes to that, because really it's just that one building on the left-hand side. There should have been more repetition in that puzzle. When it came to the gradient, I will continue to argue that the vast majority of that puzzle is not a gradient, and even for the gradient section, it's gradient light, I guess, would be the best way to describe it. So there could have been, that's also not over 50% of the puzzle is not a gradient. So I would think for 2027 we see more exaggerated percentages when it comes to testing a particular skill. And at this point of the survey, this kind of leads into what I think we may see at the 2027 World Series. So I'm going to kind of talk about what I think we might see, what I'd like to see at least, and then answering a few questions that people have submitted to me that kind of overlap with these last few questions of the survey, as well as some additional questions I just didn't get to in previous videos or just didn't fit in properly. Again, I have not been given any advanced information from the organizers. This is based purely on my opinion. If I get anything right, I'm a genius. And if I get anything wrong, well, that's obviously going to happen. So, yeah. Before I get into it, this question was sent through, and I've been asked by this in person by a lot of people. The likeliness of me going again. Well, considering I already have a spot for winning the Creator Challenge, I will be going, but I would have anyways. Yeah, and I'll talk about that more. Like this question, would I recommend it? Yes, I think pretty much everyone I've spoken to in the month since coming back from the World Series, I've been pretty open and honest about this, especially on this channel. Absolutely yes, especially if you are consistently finishing puzzles in under 75 minutes, then yes, you should definitely consider going. This is on the assumption that the 2027 World Series will also be 75-minute rounds. If it's not, and we do see a decrease to 60 minutes per round, just take that into consideration. If it were me, I would find it difficult to confidently sign up. I probably still would, as I do consistently get puzzles under 60 minutes on a first attempt, and I already have my spot reserved, but I would put more thought into it. If it's increased to 90 minutes per round, that's going to open the door to even more people that will be able to finish the puzzle in time. Just whatever the time limit is, just take that into consideration when you are considering signing up. This next question on the feedback survey, which 3 would I buy first? The puzzles, the cards, and the merchandise. That's what I bought this time. That's what I buy next time. I don't think there should be multiple solo events in the same year. I would nix that one straight away. First, there are so many national competitions that are getting another international one fit in within the calendar year. It's so much, and it's tough. People can also only travel so much, especially internationally. So you don't want to be splitting up when the top puzzlers may or may not attend. You want everyone excited for that one event, so you get all the fastest puzzlers there at the same time. One event means one commitment. This question also asked, would you purchase pairs or teams? Once these are included, the number of days is going to increase. How that impacts the schedule would be interesting. I do think we see pairs as an event or a category in 2027. I think we see the expansion straight away. How I would picture it, it would be one day dedicated to pairs. So you'd have 3 or 4 pairs events in that same day. Those events can go faster because pairs it obviously goes faster depending on how difficult the puzzles are. But I'd see one day where that takes place. You'd have day 1 would be 3 individual events, day 2 would be the pairs events, and then day 3 back to the remaining individual events, making it a 3-day event overall. Individuals, pairs, individuals. I think it would be an exhausting weekend. It opens up a lot more questions. I don't think we see a combination of individuals and pairs on the same day just purely based on logistics. I'll talk about the name tags in a second. That kind of links into this, but switching mentally between the 2 events would be very difficult. It also brings in the question how would it work with seating? Will it just be 1 pair per full table or 2 pairs per table? If it's 2, that wipes out the possibility instantly of a 1,000-piece puzzle being provided. I guess you can fit a 1,000-piece puzzle on a half table. Where do all the other pieces go? We just had the 636-piece puzzle, and that was at a push. You can't do 1,000 pieces on a half a table, even with trays. It would no. If it's 1 pair per table, that significantly limits the number of pairs that can register. So would pairs have to rely on also being part of the individuals, and you're paired up with someone that's also doing individuals? I don't know. I still think we see pairs. That's up to the organizers to sort out how that's going to look, but there's factors to consider. I don't think we see teams in 2027, and honestly, I'd be surprised if there's teams events at all for the foreseeable future. Again, like you'd have to have a day dedicated to teams. I guess it's possible, but table numbers and moving things around, it's there's so much that would go into that. The work involved would be very, very high. I don't personally see how including teams would be overall beneficial. Individuals make sense, obviously, because you are an individual year after year after year after year. You're always going to be you, and that will be the same all the way through. Teams fluctuates so much, so it's not as though it's the fastest team. It's the fastest 4 people in that moment, and then that team slightly changes as people try to get this little bit better. I just teams at the World Series, I think, is very tough. But when it comes to scheduling and what we might see in terms of teams and pairs and singles, whatever, I'm not going to make any more predictions really until something is announced, whenever that might be. What I do hope when they do announce it, if it is individuals or pairs or both, not teams, that they still keeps a little bit of mystery, at least a little bit, saying there will be challenges. Give us some time to guess what the challenges might be before they're officially announced. I do like how a little bit of information comes out at a time. We don't need to wait ages, but if it's here's the location, here's the dates, and here is the events, pairs, single pairs, individuals, whatever, and then say we'll give you more information in a couple weeks. Let us talk about it for a little bit. That's what I want to see. And not just because I want more content on here. I don't know if I'll do this again for the 2027 World Series. This has been a lot for this channel. I've been distracted from doing the other stuff I want to do on here. Will I do something with the 2027 World Series? I did win the Creator Challenge. I don't think I have a choice. I probably have to do something, right? Less? Yeah, but something. The same? I don't know. Let me know. Then they asked on the survey about locations. It is interesting to see how the different locations were broken down. I do like how they separated Canada and the US and didn't just say North America because, well, reasons. The UK being separate from Europe is also interesting on here. Where do I think it's going to be? My number one and completely unbiased choice to host next year would be Canada. Um, I know that's a shock. Specifically Toronto. But I could settle on Vancouver. Montreal is also very nice, but I don't know what the restrictions and rules would be regarding having to include English and French. Um, I would love for it to be in Montreal, but again, there is literal legal things that you would have to consider with Montreal. So I doubt Montreal would would make it. The one concern with Canada, just to prove that I'm not fully biased towards Canada, is that if they host it, it will require more people to travel further. That typically haven't had to travel as far before, and I can see some of the Europeans in particular not being thrilled. And what I say to that is tough. You've had all five world championships, soon to be the sixth. You've got you got the first World Series. You have the European Championships, which obviously take place in Europe, but it's still a big international competition. You've had your turn. For most of the European countries, Toronto is a direct flight, so it's pretty easy to get to. You'll love it. It's fun. If it isn't Canada, I do think Canada is. Uh, there's a chance that it can be in Canada, regardless of where, if I bias towards it being Canada, just because I'm in Canada. From a realistic point of view, on do I think it could be in Canada? Do I think they might be considered as an option? Why not? It definitely makes sense. And the fact it was specifically mentioned in the feedback form as its own line, not just North America, but Canada specifically, and then the US, I think that hints at, yeah, it's something that they would consider. Now, if it isn't in Canada, I do have other guesses as where it could be, and depending on where things are, how it might impact future years as well. I think for the next World Series, we leave mainland Europe. I don't think it takes place in continental Europe, like the main, you know what I mean, the main bit with it. I do think there's a possibility of the event taking place maybe in the UK. Again, that was separate on the feedback form as well. Um, I could see it being there, preferably Scotland. Scotland doesn't get a lot of speed puzzling. Let's get into Scotland. Ireland would be fun too, which I know is not the UK, but Ireland would be fun to have it there. I'm pretty much just listing places I want to go to. Yeah, that's fine. I also could see in Europe being part of one of the Nordic countries, specifically Sweden or Finland. They do host the Nordic Championships already, but and there's a lot of people from Sweden and Finland that are fast and will show up for it, because you have to take that in consideration as well. Will people show up if it's in Canada? Absolutely. The number of Canadians that will be there will be astronomically high. The people from the US, they will flood up as well. You're going to get Mexico. It's easier for people from South America as well to fly directly up. So there is a lot of people that could go to Canada, but I can also see Sweden or Finland being chosen as well. Now, Australia makes sense as this is where the organizers are from, but I think it's too far for people from Europe and parts of North America for them to commit to Australia in year two of the event. I do think we see Australia, but probably around year four of the World Series. South America would be a long shot at this point. Similar reasons to Australia. It would require the vast majority of people to do long distance travel to get to whichever country it might be in South America. I don't think I could pinpoint a specific one. Brazil probably makes the most sense geographically. It's easiest for people from Europe to get to as well as from North America. It's a highly populated country, so you'll have people that show up. You'll get more people, I guess, from like the Caribbean area as well. You'll get more people from Argentina, Chile, things like that. It makes sense in that way, but in terms of, I'll come back to that in a second. Very few participants from South America attended the first World Series, so if there was a lot more that had shown up for the first one, I think it might be more of a contender, but at this point, I don't think so. And that's also similar to the continent of Africa. Only three people, I believe, were from an African country. And I think all three of them lived in Europe. So technically, zero people from Africa flew in for the World Series, which, yeah, why would you, without knowing for sure, you're going to have a high attendance from the local-ish area to fill out maybe those last few um, spots does make it tough. I don't think, again, from my point of view, I don't think the World Series at this stage is prioritizing growing the sport. That is not their focus. It's to grow the World Series, not to include countries that we might not have seen before. So picking countries and continents that are historically represented by minimal numbers at this international level would be a surprise. As an outside shot, I could see Japan or Singapore being the host. It is far, similar to Australia, but not quite as far. Its distance from Australia, just that specifically, is not that far. So you're going to have more Australians that will be able to go. You will have some of the countries around that area. So you'll have Japan, South Korea, Singapore, obviously, China, India, that have high speed puzzle populations. They just don't travel to the other international competitions. So you would have the numbers. So I could see specifically Japan or Singapore being chosen. Um, Again, it's a bit of a trek, but from Europe it's doable, and from the west coast of North America, not that bad either. If it isn't Japan or Singapore or a country in that area this year, I think that is what we will see in year 3. In which case, Australia won't take place in year 4 because I can't see them going in that direction twice. Maybe year 5 for Australia. Although I don't. Why would they wait 5 years to go back to the home country of the organizers? I don't know. Year 4 would probably then switch back to Europe or North America, whoever doesn't have it in 2027. So if it's back in Europe next year, North America will be soon after that. If it's in North America next year, you'll be back in Europe a couple years later. That's just what my thoughts are. I forgot to include with the spectator experience. I guess you could just re-edit it and put it in there. I'm not going to. Something I like to see added in to the spectator experience, which is mainly for the live stream spectators, or at the website at the very least, is to have the time differences between the competitors shown a bit more clearly. Doing math with time is tough. So trying to figure out how far someone is behind someone else isn't easy to calculate. For instance, in the event Victor didn't win the 6 challenge, it would have been very interesting and very engaging to have a clock shown on the live stream of how much time is being gained by the people that finished ahead of them. Are they catching up to that time? We know that Kati needed just 36 seconds or so. If she had finished first in that round, seeing that countdown clock, seeing if she's going to get that overall win, that it makes for good entertainment, good watching. And then the final question on the survey was about the challenges. And they gave a bunch of different options on there, and you can enter your own challenge suggestion as well. I did enough challenge suggestions in my very, very, very first video of this series, so if the organizers want to see those again, they can go and watch that video again. I don't remember what I said, but I'm sure there's one good idea in there. I think we see at least 1 or 2 skills from this year on day 1 repeat next time. I don't know which ones. I think detailed we do see again, possibly repetition. I think gradient goes away. I don't think we see a gradient puzzle again. As for day 2, I think the mystery puzzle certainly returns. I don't think we necessarily see a circle puzzle, but I think a shape will be involved somehow. I don't know what type of shape it could be. It could be a square puzzle, like those Dulk Ravensburger puzzles. It could be something that just comes in the shape of, I don't know, like an animal or something like that, or just a weird shape around. I've seen hexagon puzzles. So there's other shapes out there for sure. When it comes to the panorama, I think the panorama is gone. I do not think we see it again. I think we see a different piece count puzzle involved. I don't know if we see the panorama again because I don't think we see Gibson's return. I think there's going to be different brands that make an appearance, very much depending on what country hosts it and what is somewhat close. Now Gibson's is based in the UK, and the competition was in Germany. That's not a huge difference between the two. If it was hosted in Canada, I wouldn't expect a Canadian brand to feature in the round because that's an advantage there. But something close, you could maybe there's a Mexican brand or something that's somewhat close that you can easily ship between the two. Now I do think Random Cut can make an appearance next time, but only if they can find a Random Cut that has normal size pieces, not large cut pieces. For instance, Cobble Hill, which is a Canadian / American brand, they have Random Cut puzzles. They're huge. 500-piece Ravensburger puzzles, which are not Random Cut, also massive puzzles. It's yeah, to kind of link that together with the large format, I think that's just definitely out. Again, simply due to space management. Large cut focuses too much on space management. We saw that with the panoramic puzzle. Space management is an issue, and I think it's good to test that. Absolutely, include that in the challenges. But large cut pieces just take up the entire space. You're gonna have trays all over the place. It's not a true reflection on how good you are at doing the puzzle. It's how good you are at manipulating space, and that's not really what the competition, in my opinion, is about. Now, something like the puzzle twist, I'm curious as to why that was included on here. Is definitely something I could see making an appearance, but if it does, it would replace the mystery box round. Having both is too similar. They're essentially unknown entities between them, so I don't see both of them happening. I prefer the mystery box as opposed to the puzzle twist. I think the mystery box is just overall more fair because we don't know the brand, we don't know the image at all. If they told us that the round is puzzle twist, huge advantage to the Europeans because that's who can get those puzzles so much easier. And so that's why I don't think we see it. But if we do, it's one or the other. It's not going to be both mystery and puzzle twists. That being said, the repetition puzzle this year had a gradient in it, so who knows? You could have the same thing twice, apparently. Fur and flowers did not make an appearance at all, really, this year. Now, the mystery puzzle had the capybaras, and there's a couple flowers thrown in there, but that's not really what they mean by this one. We know what it means when someone says fur or flowers. One of those will appear. At least one of those will heavily appear in 2027. Absolutely. We can't be that lucky 2 years in a row to really not have any flowers or fur. Nope. One of them's coming, if not both. I don't think we will ever see plastic puzzles. Not only would that would be the noisiest puzzle round ever. For those people who don't wear headphones, hearing that the clicking of those pieces, that's going to drive you insane. I just don't see it happening. I do not personally endorse plastic puzzles being made, and the increase of plastic puzzles that would be purchased and produced in order to get ready for the World Series, I just don't think it's necessary. I don't think we see plastic puzzles ever at the World Series. Wood puzzles, while fun, I think this was one of the things I said could be a challenge in my very first prediction video. While they're fun, highly unlikely simply due to the cost. The proper quality ones are extremely expensive, and remember the puzzles for the World Series are purchased by the event. They are not from the catalogs from these companies. So part of the registration fee covers the cost of the puzzles, and if you throw in a $150 wooden puzzle, I I don't see that happening. And the low quality wood puzzles, they're essentially plastic puzzles. I don't recommend them at all. Now, as a twist, gonna throw this in there. I think we may see a double puzzle challenge next time, meaning two 500-piece puzzles in the same round. So essentially doing them back to back. It would be the final challenge of the days because it's going to be longer, of course. But I don't know how, 2 hours maybe you give everybody, so two puzzles, 60 minutes each. It would be a tough one to get people to do that. It's really going to be depends on how difficult the images are. Can you get through two puzzles in 2 hours? I don't know, but I think there's going to be one round that's thrown in there because these 6 challenges came out ages ago, and for the 2026 World Series, and I can almost guarantee that ever since those first 6 were released, the organizers have just been sitting there thinking, okay, what can we do next time? What's going to be different? And they will have had so many suggestions by people as well. So really, it could be anything. But I hope that there's one round that just is there's really a twist in there, but without being ridiculous, where it gets away from the main point of the competition, which is speed puzzling. And that was the form. You can make suggestions at the bottom and such as well, which is always great to include. I don't know if the information is going to be shared or not. That's not really relevant to us. We'll know. We'll get the information once the next World Series happens. So yeah, just wait. And just to close this series out, there's some final questions I didn't get to in the other videos, so I'm just going to answer those here that were submitted either through, most of them through Instagram, some in person as well. But yeah, let's go through these. First question is, where were the designs from? I'm assuming for the puzzles. The puzzle designs were selected by the organizers. They were not custom pieces that were submitted by the organizers, from my understanding, chosen from a range of options from the brand that they would have had on file but just haven't used yet. Which it does make sense. You need to, if you're doing custom puzzles, you need to worry about artists and paying the artists properly and making sure the artists get their stuff done on time, which can always be an issue. But even with this one having the mystery brands and relying on 3 different brands to supply puzzles, something could go wrong, which is why we have the Rainbow Rascals puzzle. That was a backup puzzle meant for around, say, the mystery brand doesn't show up or one of the Gibsons just happens not to show up. Instead of just canceling everything, we still have something ready to go. So they already had things prepared for that. I do wish Rainbow Rascals was in one of the rounds. I don't know which one it would have gone in. I don't know. It's not repetition. It's not detailed. It's not anything else. Like, it's just colorful. It's fun. It's definitely not a gradient. Well, technically, there's a gradient all the way through the back in the sky. So if you consider this thing a gradient, I guess there's a gradient in there. The purple sky in the background or space is a gradient. There's a gradient in the sand. You know what? Screw it. Gradient. That's the gradient puzzle. Yeah. Now, I'm sure there's also more to it than just here's a book of images, pick one. Especially when it comes to like the Gibson's puzzles, it's so different from the usual style. Like, did Gibson's just have these images in their in some sort of catalog that you could pick from, or like a website or something? I don't know how that would have worked. But from what I've been told, none of these images are custom. They were not designed specifically for the event. Was I happy with the puzzle choices and how I did? I'll answer the first part now. Overall, yes. I don't think I've ever been thrilled with any puzzle at any competition, just because I'm always so focused on just getting the puzzle done. I'm not there to enjoy whatever the puzzle might be. I can enjoy it afterwards, maybe, but it's just my mind's always on the competitive aspect. It would have, if this one showed up, then maybe I have a different perspective when it comes to it. But for the most part, it's just, yeah, they're fun images, but um, they're okay. Was I happy with my result? I'll answer that near the end. For this one, I think my favorite image was probably the mystery puzzle because I like the image. I do like illustrated images a little bit more. I was really excited for that round in general. In terms of personal skill, the detailed puzzle was probably my favorite. I think that was my fastest one of the weekend. Gradient would have been up there as well if it was more of a gradient. But my favorite puzzle to come out of the weekend was Rainbow Rascals because, well, obviously. Someone asked what the QR code does, so I mentioned it earlier. So at every table, there was one of these pieces of paper on there, and actually, I'll just show it. So that is a good question. If you're watching the live streams, you would have seen everybody with the name tags on there. Uh, I'm not sure if it's been answered already, or maybe it was done on the live streams. I haven't watched all of the live streams. But essentially, this is how the results were logged in. Using the QR code on here, it'd be scanned by the spotters, timekeepers, whatever. Each one, I think, as well, each one was unique to each individual table. I've scanned this, and my name and my table number showed appeared, so I think it's specific to each table. The time would be entered on top, so this would be on top of the table. Each of your times were entered on there as a backup, just in case. Which again, it's good to have the backups. Um, once this was scanned, the timekeepers had the option to like obviously enter your time, enter any pieces that were remaining, and it would calculate what the extra time was that would go onto your final time. Or if you need to adjust your time in some sort of way. And there's various reasons that could have been the case. Maybe the box tops weren't cut off on a particular puzzle, or there could have been other issues that came up. But it was a good way to kind of get this all done really quickly because people were finishing so fast. Filling out those little cards and running back and forth and filling them in, that would take up so much additional time. So having this digital version of it was great. Um, it's a very creative way. It's a very quick way of doing it. Sometimes the times were not entered perfectly because everyone's a human. That's why the paper copy stayed on the table. I don't know if you can tell on there, but there's the times are all highlighted, except for my first one, which whatever. Uh, that would just be the organizers would come through and check these individually at some point after the round was done and just double check to make sure the times matched on both the hard copy and on the digital copy. So being very efficient with how everything was being done, but also being very careful to not make any mistakes. Great. Who picked the date and weekend and why? I think this came up in a preview video. In the preview video, when I spoke with Mel and Lou, maybe, um, and really comes down to when venues are available and what you can get at certain times of year, prices, everything else that goes into it. At the time they booked the weekend for the World Series, it did not overlap with any national competitions. Now, the Austrian nationals did end up taking place on the same weekend, but that the Austrian nationals were announced after the speedpuzzle World Series was announced, so there's nothing you can really do at that point. And while I don't know for sure if this was taken into consideration, time of year with regards to temperatures, weather, may also play a factor. Germany was pretty warm that weekend already, but still a nice warm. Uh, if it were a couple months later, the heat would be getting to almost like an unbearable level, and we've seen what that's like at other competitions. Which brings up the next question: how hot was it? I'm not quite sure which is this referring to, if it's referring to Germany or Munich itself or the venue. Outside, it was very warm, especially in the sun, but not in an uncomfortable way, which is exactly what you want. Within the venue, it was a bit colder than you would expect with that amount of people in the room. But as mentioned in a previous recap, it used to be a potato warehouse, so that makes sense. It would have to be a cooler type of location. It was comfortable in the venue. and it didn't feel like the temperature was increasing as the weekend progressed through, like you might have from other competitions. Uh, so picking the venue, if you're basing it on climate control, excellent choice. How do people recover between puzzles, and how do you stay focused for so long? Recovery for most people was just to have a quick snack, talk with other people about the challenge, maybe go buy some merchandise or trade some cards in between. But really, by the time you just did a little one or two things, it was almost time for the next challenge to start. There wasn't really much time to sit and think too much about it. It was just it just kept going over the course of those 6 hours or so. And staying focused is based on what your mindset is. Personally, part of my training was doing multiple puzzles in a day within short periods of time. In between doing puzzles, it wouldn't be one back to back to back. I would try to do something else for half an hour, and kind of reset my brain a little bit, and then go back and do my next puzzle, because I felt that most reflected what it was going to be like at the World Series, and that's exactly what it turned into. I did more between the rounds than I thought I was going to, because it turned into such a more sociable event than I thought it was going to be. Um, but like any other skill, people need to work on focus. In the previous video, as I mentioned with the sixth challenge, the panorama, I believe focus did play a big factor in that round. The puzzle was harder, yes, but if your focus dropped for even a little bit with such a strict time limit of 90 minutes, um, if you slowed down a little bit or you just did something in the wrong order, you're not going to finish that puzzle. Did I meet up with people before the competition started? I was lucky enough to be at a hotel with a number of puzzlers that were participating in the event. And some people brought puzzles with them, which was very nice. And within our hotel, we had a pretty big communal area with a big table, not the best for puzzling, but there's a big table on there, a table big enough ish, or three tables big enough ish to do like a 500-piece puzzle on. There was a kitchen counter to do puzzles on. So there was enough space. So yes, I met a few puzzlers the night before. I think it was a good way to kind of just get into the puzzling mindset as well. The jet lag hit me really hard on that first day. So I wasn't 100% fully conscious for the puzzling that happened the night before. I didn't puzzle. I was just around the people that were. But again, it was nice to have that distraction, help me keep me up a little bit longer, so I would go to bed at a reasonable time and not wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, that was all good. And the last question that came up more times than I ever thought it would, and was a bit of a surprise, was themed around this. To answer that as quickly as possible, yes, I am single, but it's surprising how I've not met the right woman for me, considering I do all these videos on my own and puzzle alone in the basement a lot. Yeah, it's surprising, really. And to close out this part of the recap series that I've been doing, I just want to share a few of my final thoughts on the World Series. I loved the World Series, and for many reasons. First, the competition itself. Overall, it was exactly what was promised. There were no surprises when it came to the puzzles or the competition setup. I really liked the venue. I know there was a couple issues for others, and that might have impacted their perceptions of the event. But for me, I thought the venue was great. Yes, there's things I would have changed, but overall, very, very happy with it. Lighting was good enough. Temperature, very, very good. Um, Overall atmosphere as well. I don't know, just being in a warehouse like that, it felt like it. I don't know. It just, there is a aspect of it, a vibe within that room, that just made it seem really energetic and really exciting. But beyond the six challenges, the World Series felt like something special. Unlike the World Championships or some national events where each round is a different group of people, these were the same 330 something people going through the same experience as you in every single round. You got to know the people at the tables around you. There's a very good chance you didn't know specifically who the people were around you. You might have heard of them, or you might have spoken to them once, or seen them on a YouTube channel, or something in the past, but you don't really know them personally, in most cases. If you're in the front row, yeah, all those people know each other. That's different. But for the rest of us, it's you get to know the people around you, and it's you go through all of that together. But yeah, everyone going through those 6 challenges at the same time, it's a shared experience that you can talk about equally. And once one challenge is done, you can talk about what you think the next one's going to be, because you're all going to be doing that at the same time. You're not going to be split into separate semifinals or finals or whatever might be coming up. No one's been eliminated. You're all moving on to the next round. There's always something coming up next for everybody. And I think that's what made this so much better as a big competition, a major competition. What I also noticed, and this is a comparison to the World Championships, not the format of the World Championships or anything to do with that, but in terms of the social aspect of the World Championships, what I participated in and what I witnessed when it came to the socialness of the World Championships is that you kind of stayed with your singular group, whether that was your country or your friendship group, whatever that might be, because it was very much you showed up, you did your one puzzle, and you left. Or if you stayed, you were watching your friends do their rounds. Um, that changed at the World Championships once the outdoor screen showed up and people were able to mingle a little bit more. You also had drinks outside. That was nice to include. That did not take place between rounds in Germany, I don't think. But at the World Series, there wasn't time to splinter off because it was such a short period of time between the 3 rounds each day. You go outside, you just talk to whoever you could see. The cards really helped. It really helped people who might be nervous to break the ice with someone who they haven't spoken to, or who they are nervous of speaking to. Um, it helped. It helped with that. There was just a lot of people were talking to people that they probably haven't ever spoken to before, and I haven't seen that at other competitions to this level. Personally, I met and spoke with hundreds of people over those 2 days, whether they were competitors, whether they were family of competitors, most recognizing me through this channel. I still find myself not sure of what to say when people say that they watch this channel, they enjoy the videos. I do appreciate it. I promise you do. I promise I do. I do. Um, Even now, as I'm trying to do that, a lot of these videos, I also do have a script ish, an outline in front of me. Some are more detailed than others, but a lot of the time I'm just talking off the top of my head, like I am right now. In person, I'm not always as prepared for that, but at the World Series, it was a good way for me to just kind of get used to talking to people like that. I am more of a introverted person, for the most part. But yeah, I think a lot of people benefited from being able to openly talk with so many people that they might not have had the opportunity to do before. And again, this the World Series allowed for that to happen, and I think this is going to make the puzzle community as a whole closer moving forward. As a group, we spent about 14 hours over 2 days at the venue. Um, that includes getting there in the mornings, it includes in between the rounds, it includes the closing ceremonies at the end, which I didn't talk about actually. They were fun. Watch the live streams, it's on there. Um, it was 14 hours, but it felt like just a few minutes, but it also felt like it was a full week. It was this weird kind of experience, all enjoyable, but time went by in a very peculiar way. It's tough to properly explain to people who are not there. So the best way to kind of experience that would be to go to the 2027 World Series. When the World Championships ended in 2025, I left to fly back to Canada, and that was that. Yeah, it was. I went there, I had fun, but I can leave now. When the World Series ended, It felt like it was too soon, and maybe because that was just 2 days, um, but maybe because the experience was overwhelmingly positive. Um, or maybe that's just how an event's supposed to feel like at the end. I guess a really good event, you don't want to leave. Maybe it's a combination of all of that. Will I be attending in 2027? I've already addressed this. Yes, absolutely, I will be. Regardless of where it's held, that will not be my limitation. Now, life does happen and nothing is 100%. Things can come up. But as of right now, yes, I will be at the 2027 World Series. I would recommend to anybody that's considering going and who can consistently finish a 500-piece puzzle under whatever the time limit will be, that they consider going as well. 2026 was the inaugural event. It did not fully sell out. I mean, it got as close as it possibly could. There's like, what, 5 extra seats that weren't used. I don't think that happens in 2027, purely based on just the Canadians I've spoken to. The ones who plan on returning, there wasn't a lot of us plans on returning, but the many that didn't go, that I can definitely see signing up next time. If Canada had 6 people this time, even if that doubles to 12 or triples to 18, um, well, that's 6 to 12 extra spots that are gone straight away. And we don't know how big the venue might be next time. Will it fit the same amount of people? Will it be more? Will it be less? Don't know. Having 400 people in a round is very tough to find a venue that's not extortionately expensive. There has been a lot of comments and stuff online about people that feel like they missed out on it as well. And I don't think they want to be left out twice. So whenever those tickets go on sale, thankfully I already have mine. But because the Creators Challenge, I don't physically have a ticket yet, but I have, whenever those tickets go online, I would recommend getting your ticket as quickly as possible, especially depending on what country it may be hosted in. Now, if my wish comes true and it's in Canada, the US was highly represented already and that was when it was in Europe. They will come in droves to if it's hosted in Canada. So and there'll be so many more Canadians that go there as well. So tickets on that first day, if it's in Canada, ticket sales are going to go fairly quick, I would think. Same if it's in Sweden or Finland or the UK or Australia or Japan, you're going to have a huge amount of people, especially because it could very well be an international event that's not on continental Europe for the first time ever. Tickets are going to go quickly. So, yeah, get your ticket as soon as possible. As a reminder, I do not work or have any participation in ticket sales or the event itself. Purely on my own, just to be clear. I do think the field will be more competitive next time, which I'm very happy to see that get included. I want this event to continue to focus on the fastest puzzlers in the world over the course of multiple challenges, and to test people that might not be the fastest in the world but still fairly fast, to be able to test them as well over the course of 2 days, 3 days, however long it lasts. And while I think the challenges next time will be tougher, the atmosphere will be more intense as well. But it's going to be enjoyable. It was so enjoyable this time, and it will be next time. So wherever the World Series lands in 2027, I will be there, and I hope that you will be there too. As always, happy puzzling.